Welcome to the Virginia is for Laughers podcast, brought to you by X2 Comedy. If you're looking to get more out of your Shenandoah Valley experience, then this is the podcast for you. You'll meet interesting people, the comedians that perform here, and find out more about what you can do and see. Whether you live here or plan to visit, listen to explore what helps make up our unique slice of heaven. Now here's your host, Dawn Davis Womack.
Hello, Laughers! Ho, ho, ho! They are back. We are fortunate to have Mr. and Mrs. Claus here with us again this year on a Zoom call all the way from the North Pole. It's their busiest time of year, so we're very lucky to get some time with them to chat on all things about the North Pole. Santa Claus, he is known as Father Christmas, St. Nicholas, St. Nick, Kris Kringle, or simply Santa. He's famously known for delivering gifts and candy to children all over the globe on Christmas Eve, unless, of course, they are naughty. He cannot do it all without the help of his elves, the flying reindeer that pull his sleigh of toys through the air, and, of course, the lovely Mrs. Claus, his wife. She is the primary caretaker of Santa's workshop, cares for the reindeer, the elves, and I even hear makes some toys. It's so exciting to have you both back on the show today, and I'm coming at you with new questions this year. So welcome to the show, Mr. and Mrs. Claus. It's delightful to have you both on today.
Thanks for having us.
Happy to be here.
Yes, this is so exciting. Christmas is absolutely my favorite time of year. And I am just thinking about you guys. I know it's super, super busy. Oh, my goodness. So I just want to just ask, how are you two doing? And how is the season going so far?
How long is your show? I could go on forever about it. No, we're doing fine. We're on schedule with toys. The list is being made and checked again. And I think we're running a pretty tight ship so far this year.
Yeah. How about you, Mrs. Claus? How's it going for you?
Good. Now that, things are back to a little more normal, we're rolling right along. We've got things progressing nicely in the North Pole and keeping an eye on the kids all over the world.
The hardest part is keeping those elves on track.
Right? What makes it so hard to do that?
Their natural tendency is to be a little crazy. They like to fly off and do elven things all the time, and we have to keep them focused on the toys.
There's a lot of fun things to do in the North Pole, and there's a lot of sugar. So they get busy, they get excited, and just got to keep them on track.
What have you found is the best tool to get them refocused over the centuries?
Yoga.
Some namaste. Stay with me, elves.
Exactly.
I just think you two are so adorable and you have your own love story. So I wanted to ask, how did the two of you meet, Mr. and Mrs. Claus?
Well, she was still a teacher, and I was not yet the Santa that you know, but I was starting to bring toys to children who didn't have any. And I think that our relationship developed throughout that time. Yeah, I would go to her and ask questions about the kids and what they liked, and if they were naughty or nice, and if they deserved to be on the nice list. And I think it kind of went from there.
What a better resource to see how children are acting than to ask their teacher.
True. Now, when you saw Mr. Claus for the first time, what did you notice? What was your favorite thing about him?
Well, there was no beard back then. There was no jolly belly. He was a young, handsome, very kind soul.
Now I'm an old handsome.
But he was doing kind gestures for children, and what's more adorable than that?
I agree. And what made you smitten about Mrs. Claus, Santa?
Well, she was probably the most beautiful thing that I had ever seen.
Aww.
And she was a very, very sweet person as well. And I think that made a very good partnership for the two of us.
Prettier than a Christmas tree?
Yes, even prettier than a Christmas tree. I try to model the Christmas trees after.
Oh,
Oh, that's great. You guys are the sweetest. You've been married for a lot of centuries. So this next question actually comes from a laugher. And what she wants to know is what keeps the spark going in your marriage?
Well, we have to try to keep thinking about each other every day, not just about making toys or taking care of the elves, but about doing little special things for each other. I think that kind of keeps.
And there's the idea of an occasional date night. When you have lots of elves running around, it's very difficult to have an occasional date night. And
I imagine.
and every once in a while, usually right after Christmas, Santa will take me on an international date somewhere fabulous for dinner in the sled.
Well, surprise her somewhere that she's wanted to go and see and hang out, like, whether it's Paris or London, and we'll do a quick night away.
1 year it was Morocco.
Ooh, I was going to ask, what are some of the ones you remember, Mrs. Claus?
Yes. Once was the Swiss Alps.
Ooh,
so fun.
We can go anywhere in the world, so why not?
Absolutely.
And fast too, right? The sleigh is.
Yeah, that's right. We don't have to book through a travel agent or anything.
No, the company car. And off we go.
That's amazing. I think that's beautiful. And I was wondering, your love story, the elves are up there and you care for their children. You talked about that's one of the things you love the most is being in the elves' lives. So I'm wondering, do they have weddings too in the North Pole?
Absolutely.
Sure. Oh yeah. Everything that happens down in the rest of the world happens up at the North Pole. So the elves do get married, and I get to be the officiant for a lot of those weddings.
And I handle the receptions. We don't have as many flowers in the North Pole because it's not very warm down up there to grow flowers. But most of the weddings are a snowflake theme. And many of the weddings here in the winter are a snowflake theme with lots of holly, lots of berries. But
yeah,
we sort of take a more wintry twist to it. Most of them get married, not during Christmas. The season is too busy, but it's still very snowy and has
it's always
theme.
cold up at the North Pole. So
yeah.
Are they various sizes too? You know how we have small weddings, like petite size weddings are becoming a trend now, I understand. But there's still elaborate big weddings too. Is it just...
It depends on the elf and what they want.
Usually they're pretty big because just about everybody in the North Pole is invited. So it's it's a pretty big... We have a large barn facility that's been a sort of a popular theme lately, that we built a barn specifically for special events. And that's been kind of a popular theme. We have little bonfires, and they make little s'mores at the end of the night. And, it's a lovely...
Anything to get more sugar in.
Anything to get more sugar in.
Are the reindeer hanging out too at the weddings, or do they stay?
Usually outside.
Okay.
Usually outside.
Well, and a lot of them have reindeer that they... almost like a take home, their own little sleighs that they get back and forth with. So, and they ride, and they do leave in a specific. We have a fancy sled that you drive off with "Just Married" on the back.
So just married.
And if they ask very nicely, sometimes Rudolph will lead that one. So just on special occasions.
Oh, I love that so much. That would be a dream for me to have Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
You go to Disney and you can get married and ride in the carriage like Cinderella, but in the North Pole, you can ride in a sled with a reindeer. So a little bit
that's
different.
Exciting.
It's still beautiful.
I love it. That's amazing. Family is so important. And that brings me to my next question. I believe, Santa, you have a sibling. Do both of you have siblings? And if so, do they help out with the workshop operations?
Well, we find that it's better not to have siblings or other family in the workshop as much as we can. Occasionally we will have somebody visit for a season, But over the course of centuries, it's better to just have Mrs. Claus and I with the elves. It seems to be much more efficient that way. Mrs. Claus is an only child.
I do not have siblings,
So
and I
she
think
has-
that is part of the reason I enjoy all of the elves as much as I do, and being part of their families, and just getting to be a part of establishing the community up there. I just that is my, of course, our extended family,
Right.
but I do not have siblings of my own.
So we do love to have visits, but it's probably better from a working perspective to keep it with just us.
So they visit in the off season, I take it. Or your brother.
Absolutely,
Yeah, okay.
yes.
Yeah, okay. I see. Wow. I'm wondering if you have any comedy shows or music concerts in the North Pole.
Oh, do
sure. We
we?
have some funny elves. We have some talented elves. They love to get out and perform, especially when we're not in the midst of the big, busy toy making season. They like to do things like that just to entertain themselves and each other.
And the big barn that we had built doubles as a theater, and we show movies as well as have a large stage there. So we have recitals, we have talent shows. The elves are very, very talented. We're hoping to book Dawn and Chris Womack at some point in the North Pole. I think that would be a
special
great
appearance.
Absolutely.
We would
absolutely.
love that.
So, yeah, we will talk about that after the podcast.
Oh, we would be so honored to be there. I can put that on my bucket list. It's
Absolutely.
actually happened.
We'll send the sleigh for you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. It's like, I can't wait. Can't wait. Speaking of entertainers, well, maybe it may not have been an entertainer, but did you have any famous people that have ever visited the North Pole?
Well, we try to keep the location of the North Pole as secret as we can. We do have a lot of famous people like Mother Nature comes up, and people like that you would know of. Every once in a while, we'll get somebody who's a famous entertainer, usually after they've kind of faded out of the limelight.
Except Hugh Jackman. He is at the peak of his popularity. He actually comes and gives dancing and singing lessons and even some performing lessons to our elves for some of our shows. So we see Hugh Jackman on a regular basis.
He's a favorite of Mrs. Claus.
He is, indeed.
He is. Well, you're not jealous, are you, Mr. Claus?
No, I just keep a close eye on that one. Make sure which list to put him on.
Although he's been busy this year with his performance in Music Man and revitalizing his role in Wolverine. So I don't think he's going to make it up this season. But we always look forward to his visit. He's a very, very pleasant gentleman to be around. And he does bring his wife sometimes.
And very talented.
Very talented.
He is uberly talented.
I think that rubs off on the elves too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Especially the ones that entertain. They probably love that.
Sure.
That's got to be a magical time, actually. I was actually thinking about, speaking of entertainment, how last year we asked you guys, both of you, what your favorite Christmas movies were. And that was super, super fun. And this year I would like to ask each of you, out of all the Christmas movies they've made so far, who has played each of you the best in your opinion?
Well, the claymation versions are always the classics, but I really like the humor that Ed Asner used in Elf when he played Santa. I thought he did a really good job.
Yeah, he's a classic actor. Yes, he represented you very well. I also love the claymation versions. It's very, very true to form in my role as a teacher and Santa's role as a young man delivering gifts, centuries ago. But I also really like Elizabeth Mitchell in the Santa Claus. She's just a lovely, lovely teacher that struggles with understanding the reality of what's happening, being involved with the magic of Christmas and the story behind legendary Santa Claus. But it's a beautiful story of how she comes around to the realization and the kindness and the love that surrounds Christmas. And I just find her role and her job portraying that role beautiful.
Yeah, she did a great job portraying you.
Very, very nice.
I would agree with that. I was just thinking about the visitors, the famous people that you've had at the North Pole in movies. And I was thinking about Mother Nature in that I can't remember what the name of the movie is called. It's claymation also. And there's the Heat Miser and Jack Frost.
Oh, the Year Without a Santa Claus.
The Year Without a Santa Claus.
Yes. She was featured in that.
Yes. Now, have you ever had a discussion with her if she thought that was spot on? Or
I think she, obviously there's some license taken by the writers of those where they adjusted a little bit, but I think that she felt it was a pretty good portrayal.
She was in the Santa Claus too, wasn't she? The character?
Yes.
And with the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy. And
yes, she was.
The actress that played Mother Nature in the Santa Claus was beautiful. Beautiful actress.
Yeah, so I think she likes the portrayals that she's had so far.
Yeah. Do you think that really happens, or do you know if that really happens, that the Heat Miser and Jack Frost are kind of butt heads a little bit?
Well, yeah.
Is that true?
I think that they went a little bit further than what really happens, but I do think that there's some of that every year where you have the heat of the South versus the cold of the North, and from year to year it can push further north or further south depending on how the weather goes. So she's in control of all of that.
And I will interject here that Santa is a big fan of singing the songs from that show.
Me too, Santa. I'm Mr. Heat Miser. I'm Mr. 101.
He's been known to sing that in the shower.
No way!
You're giving away all of my secrets now.
That's my favorite song too.
I sound much better in the shower though.
Me too. There's a reason I tell jokes and not sing for people.
We all have to stay in our own lanes, right?
Exactly. Now the elves make the toys, and I understand, Mrs. Claus, you have made some toys. What are some of the toys you've made with the elves?
Well, I'm a fan of the classics.
Okay.
I'm a fan of the classics. What are some of the ones
Well, you make great trains.
Well, yeah.
The rocking horses are always really nice.
Sure. But trains trains are always popular. So I like to be involved in trains a lot. The little wooden train tracks and they've taken it to another level with Thomas the Tank Engine.
Oh,
they sort of ramped up with the trains with the names, but and even the Lionel trains around the bottoms of the Christmas trees. We have a nice one at the North Pole in our big tree, under our big tree. But the classics. I'm not as into the technology and the gaming as I am the classic hands-on.
We have some of the elves that are just really great with that technology.
And as a teacher, I appreciate the manipulative value of just hands-on and playing together and the socializing with toys like trains. So
yeah, I'm a bit old school like that too. Yeah. The VR is really, the virtual reality games that are coming out are really amazing.
Incredible.
Yeah, they are incredible. So are you guys working with that and making, I guess you are making.
Sure. I mean, I'm hundreds of years old, so all of that is new to me. But you have elves that come to us all the time with new ideas and new things like that kids are interested in. So we try to keep it as fresh and updated as we can.
We keep an eye on the research done at some of the local colleges, which we won't give away the names of the colleges that we're watching, but we're keeping an eye on the information coming out on what these kids are learning and how they're learning. And if we can get some information from them, we try to. So
yeah, that's a lot of centuries of making toys. So I can't imagine that none of them have broken. So when an elf breaks a toy, what happens and how do you handle this situation?
Well, we try to have them fix it right on the spot if they can. And obviously, if it's something that they did on purpose, then they'll get an elf timeout. They'll have to go sit on the side for a little while until they calm down for whatever reason. But yeah, we try to basically get it fixed and back into the assembly line as quickly as we can. So because we just have so many toys to make.
Sometimes that happens as we get closer to Christmas, just in the rush and the hustle and bustle.
Yeah.
Things get knocked off tables but they're pretty good about repairing things. So, I mean, that's what they do.
If they break it, I'm pretty sure they can fix it.
Sure.
Yeah, there's got to be tons and tons of elves. I think we talked about this a little bit last year, the Polar Express being kind of bit spot on. Is that give us some sense for those of us who don't live in the North Pole, the number of elves? Is that?
Well, that was a pretty good portrayal. And again, that was a few years ago. But yeah, that's a fairly good representation of sort of the scope of what has to go on in order for us to make that trip every year.
Yeah, that's amazing to me. What you
got to have many hands to make light work.
Yes, have them all on deck.
That's right.
That's a lot of elves to manage, a lot of toys to make. So I imagine over the many centuries, you have faced a number of challenges. What has been the biggest challenge you have had to face so far to date getting ready for Christmas?
Well,
more recently, COVID, but 100 years ago, the Spanish flu was.
I
think that the pandemic was tough because we had to make sure everything was kept clean, and we had to make sure the elves stayed healthy. With me going in and out of everybody's houses, I also had to be careful, to not be spreading things around as we were going. So, there were some things to think about with the pandemic that were certainly, something we hadn't seen in about 100 years, since the Spanish flu. So that was difficult. And now, the most difficult thing probably this year, we have the supply chain issues, making sure that we have everything we need to make the toys that are the most requested. Things are tough to get everywhere, and that the North Pole is no different. We still have to get the pieces that we need.
How about you, Mrs. Claus? What would you say?
As far as what was the most difficult, or
biggest challenge?
Keeping up with my cookie habit.
Yeah, the cookies. The cookies are Santa. And
always eating cookies.
He was trying to be a little more fit this year, so we tried to.
Those diet cookies though. Gotta be.
They didn't do anything.
I just gotta cut the number down.
We tried to work a few more vegetables into his diet, but the cookies kept emerging. I kept finding them hidden in the workshop in various corners.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Did you do any working out this year, Santa? Was that?
Well, a little walking, back and forth around the workshop. That's about it. Too busy.
He's got a certain physique that he does have to.
I need to maintain this Santa figure. The
classic Santa figure.
So. Yeah, and that takes some cookies.
That's right. Shakes like a bowl full of jelly.
That's right. And we love you for it, Santa.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And you have a sleigh. We talked last year a little bit about, what happens if the sleigh breaks down Christmas Eve. Oh, my goodness, what will happen? But, there's a whole lot of year left between the Christmas seasons. So I imagine there's some maintenance that needs to be done on the sleigh. Do you have a body shop up in the North Pole?
Well, we usually take it to Nick's Sleigh Repair. A lot of the elves are pretty skilled at keeping the sleigh tuned up pretty nicely. If there's any problem with the main sleigh, the night of, obviously we have things that we can do to keep it running. But afterwards, that sleigh can go in for a full overhaul and make sure that it's ready for the next next year.
And there are a few of the elves that if they express an interest in the, it's not really automotive because the sleigh doesn't have wheels and it doesn't have a typical motive, but a sort of a transportation path in the North Pole, they can go into a program where they learn more about the sleigh and maintenance of the sleigh and the history of the sleigh. And that's how they become employees at the next sleigh repair.
Yeah, we're very big at having the people that are working those jobs now, whether it's toys or sleigh repair or whatever, teaching the younger elves how to do those things so that they can do them in the future.
Because even in the North Pole, the trades are very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I imagine so. How do you figure out when they're coming up as young elves what their skill sets are? Is there an evaluation process, or is it more like, they learn from their mom and dad, or what does that look like?
They get to try a bunch of different things if they have an interest in making toys, or there's some that decide they want to make cookies. There's some that decide they want to fix the sleigh. They can try those different things out. And
I know in some of the cultures, there's when children are young, they will put items in front of the children, and what the children grab is sort of a projection of what the child might go into as they're older. If they are to grab a gavel, then they're probably going to be attorneys. If they grab, so we sometimes have fun with that, and we put the toys and the repair tools and kind of see if that child goes in the path that they predict, even at a young age.
And they live for quite a long time, so they have plenty of time to
and they are more than welcome to change their path if they would like. There is
so you don't start in the auto body shop and then that's what you do forever.
Right. If you want to explore a different field, we are open to that and welcome that and just see where it takes. We want everyone to be happy.
Yeah.
It's a happy place.
Mm-hmm. It is happy. Your teaching background comes in so handy with these elves at the North Pole.
I like to think so.
Yeah, you're encouraging them.
Even though they're hundreds of years old, they still sometimes act like children. So it's a good mix.
Yeah. Well, we all like to be uplifted, don't we? And acknowledge when we do something great, and that's got to be really wonderful for the whole community up there. Yeah.
Lots of positivity in the North Pole. Christmas is all about being happy, being merry.
Being merry. That's right. Merry Christmas indeed. Mm-hmm. You have reindeer, and Rudolph is my favorite. So I'm very excited about the idea of meeting Rudolph. But I imagine sometimes maybe his nose goes out or down, doesn't work. Is there a backup plan?
Years ago, he had a hangnail and couldn't make the trip.
No way.
I think, if Rudolph ever gets a head cold or anything, it can affect his nose and how it glows. So we do have backups on the sleigh where there are electric versions of light that will guide our way. But we prefer to go with the traditional and let Rudolph lead the way if he's feeling up to it any particular year.
Sure. But when Rudolph is not leading, though, Santa usually lines the reindeer up in 2 rows of 4 because Blitzen and Dasher get a little pushy as far as who's leading. So we have to double them up. So it's not a
contest.
Right. If it's not Rudolph, then we have to kind of spread them out a little bit.
Yeah. They get a little cocky if Rudolph's not there. So
Rudolph helps keep everything in check a little bit.
They know when Rudolph is lined up first, Rudolph's in charge.
Yeah, Rudolph, he's so special. They all are, though.
They are, but very different personalities, those reindeer.
Yeah, they're all unique.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but do you have a favorite Santa, or can you tell?
I love them all. Just like with children, you don't like to play favorites. I mean, Dasher was always the first, so
Dasher's always so well groomed.
There's a special relationship there, and like any first child that you would have, there is
Dancer's always fun.
a certain amount
Prancer.
of expectation there, and Dasher has always delivered that
Mhm.
solid performance.
Sure.
Yeah. Those guys. So last year we were talking about the reindeer games and how, those.
But you have to keep an eye on Blitzen.
Do you?
Oh.
So,
Yeah.
what's he up to? Why do you have to keep
away
an
from
eye?
the rum cake?
Keep him away from the peppermint schnapps.
Yes. He didn't earn the name Blitzen for nothing.
Blitzen.
He's just getting into it, isn't he?
There's always one.
What does he do when he gets caught with the peppermint schnapps?
Well,
usually it's not on Christmas, so it's not that big of a deal. But if it would be on Christmas, then we have to put a substitute in for him. You never want to drink peppermint schnapps and fly.
No, I wouldn't recommend it.
oh,
Yeah, we were talking about how they do reindeer games, and the ones that win the reindeer games tend to get a position on the sleigh. So those 8 reindeers keep in the lead.
they're very competitive.
Yeah.
Competitive reindeer. It's a big job.
It is a big job. I imagine. Do they have to train during the year to get ready for
Absolutely.
this? Oh yeah.
What does that entail? Go ahead.
Well, it's like any other sport almost, where nowadays you'll train year round. If you're in basketball or baseball or football, you'll have off-season training. So they kind of do a similar route to that, and that they're the most intense as you're getting closer and closer to Christmas. But afterwards and older in the year, they still have to stay in shape.
And we have facilities. Instead of CrossFit, it's called SnowFit. And so we have some for the elves, but some for the reindeer as well, because everyone needs to be in good shape.
That's right.
Except Santa.
I don't get over there very often.
He's walking around the work,shop
That's it.
times.
He's keeping an eye on everything.
Making sure the cookies have.
He doesn't get to SnowFit very often.
Who's in charge of the reindeer training? Do you do that too, Santa, or is that you help out, Mrs. Claus?
Usually the elves.
Oh yeah,
handle most of that. Yeah, it's not something that falls under what I do. Based on all the other things that I have to worry about.
Right. It's almost like an equestrian center.
I come in at the end and just see who's doing the best.
Sure. Although you go in and check the harnesses and the and the backup LED lighting sometimes.
More of an occasional thing.
Sure. Just overseeing.
That makes sense. I believe last year we also talked about how the Lappers can follow Santa live on a Christmas Eve tracker. Can you refresh us on what they would be able to see if they watch this tracker and what the website is again?
Sure. We work with NORAD.org. It's called NORAD Santa, and
NORAD Santa.
They follow NORADSanta.org. They follow us starting on December 1st, and they'll run all the way through Christmas and basically follow our whole route. So you can look on Christmas Eve where we are and how many packages we've delivered already. And then eventually when we're coming into your area of the world, and that's usually a good signal for the little kids to make sure that they're in bed so that they don't get passed over because they're still awake. So it's a good thing for them to keep an eye on where Santa is.
It's a good way for me to keep track of where he is, when I can expect him home. They have dash cams, so I can see what he is seeing. You can see the presents being delivered, the number of presents delivered, so I can keep track of if he's on track. You just follow the map along.
A lot of the cities and towns do have their own cameras, so every once in a while they'll catch the sleigh on camera, and so you'll get that view as well of the sleigh going by, let's say in New York or somewhere like that where they have a lot of.
It's very rare to actually catch Santa on camera, though.
Yeah, I'm pretty quick.
A lot of children try,
but it's difficult.
Very difficult.
Is there how NASA, when the rocket ship takes off and goes into space, they have this big, central, I don't know what to call it, space station here on Earth, and they can see, they got the big TV
Sure. And all the
screens
staff.
and all
Sure.
that. Right. Is that the same with this tracker? They can.
Oh yeah, we have a control center back at
That's
the
it.
North Pole.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
they keep an eye, and if I need anything during the trip, they'll make sure that we get it, whether it's repairs to the sleigh or if
And they
something-
keep track of the weather as well, which is
Right.
very important.
yeah, they let me know, when there's storms, and if I can avoid them, I try to. So yeah, they're very active on Christmas Eve for sure.
Sure.
How do you hear them? Do you have like an earbud, or how does that?
Sure, yeah, the little things that you put inside your ear. And they're basically talking in my head the whole time.
He has
Okay.
Wi-Fi on the sled now. Years ago,
Oh,
it was much more
yeah.
difficult, but there is a Wi-Fi hotspot on the sled.
Yeah,
Wow.
modern technology, it's amazing.
Yeah, I bet. Well, is that a blessing? Do you like the modern technology versus when you started out hundreds of years ago?
Well, I do like the traditional and staying as traditional as we can. Obviously we probably could be riding around in a rocket ship right now, but I prefer the sleigh. But there are certain things that I do like on the technology that help us. So over the years and over the centuries, we've upgraded.
The GPS has been very helpful.
Sure. Yeah. I don't have to have a big book.
Oh my
remember
gosh, yes.
All the houses and all the kids now, everything is on a tablet. So we can really streamline it.
Does it save time, or is the time the same?
I think we just find other things that have to be done with that same time. So it still comes down to the wire every year, loading that sleigh at the last minute.
And there is a lot of magic involved with the time.
Yeah.
That
Right.
night. There's a lot of magic.
Yeah.
What might be regular time for me slows down a lot for the rest of the world while we deliver our toys.
Does it feel fast to you, Santa, or does it feel like normal time?
It's very fast. We're going around the world in a very short amount of time.
Oh,
But we're used to it.
It's not your first rodeo show this year,
That's
is
right.
it?
Not our first rodeo.
We've done it before.
It's a lot of work. We're so grateful for it. But I wonder if you get to take a break. I mean, after Christmas, do you all go on vacation? And if so, where do you like to go?
Mrs. Claus makes sure that we take a vacation every year once it's all over. So once we come back and we hang up the coat and the hat and the reindeer go back to the barn and everybody is calm and quiet and we've had a little bit of time to rest, then generally Mrs. Claus wants to go on a trip somewhere. So we've been all over the world on different vacations.
But my favorite is to go to New York City after Christmas. We go see usually the Rockette show, which they have for a couple of weeks after Christmas. So I like to see the Rockettes. It's very difficult to go somewhere with Santa before Christmas. Everyone recognizes Santa. So after Christmas, it's a little easier, but we like New York City. We go to Ellen's Stardust Diner and
you can kind of blend in with the crowd in a place like New York and depending how you dress and how you wear your hair or maybe disguised a little bit, you can sort of melt into the crowd.
And that Rockefeller Christmas tree. Always fun to see the
it's
Rockefeller
beautiful.
Christmas tree.
Yeah.
I usually see it from up high, and it's nice to see it down at street level once in a while.
So you're staying sort of concealed by being in regular street clothes. Is that what I'm hearing?
Santa in a baseball hat is. People might look at him. I will say some of the children
still recognize.
I think
They'll tug
wonder. They might wonder.
They'll tug on my coat sleeve every once in a while and kind of give me a look like they know, but
they might. So
the parents, the adults tend to not notice as much. They're too busy.
But the children still hear the bells. So
yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I was asking about that last time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's in the magic, isn't it?
Lots of magic with Christmas.
Yeah. What have been some of your favorite places other than New York that you've been to on vacation?
I'm a big fan of Paris.
Yeah,
the Eiffel Tower lights at night are like a giant Christmas tree.
Always a beautiful trip to there.
Beautiful in Paris. I like the Parisian food and pastries. It's a nice change from me making cookies.
After all the cold, I do like to lay on a beach somewhere.
He does.
So
He does.
there are many of those around the world, and it's also somewhere we can usually go where there's not a lot of people and avoid also being seen at that type of a place. So we'll pick a little island somewhere and go lay on the beach for a little while as well.
I like hot weather too. I was born in Florida. I think it comes natural.
Sure.
I think after spending all year up in the snow, it's nice to have a couple of weeks to lay on the beach.
Yeah. So no elves, just Mr. and Mrs. Claus.
No, the elves take a nice long nap after Christmas.
Almost hibernating for a minute.
That's it. A nice little break before we go back, because within a week or two, it all starts up again.
I imagine. So you could keep up with all the children's toys requests for all over the globe. That's a big, big job.
It is a solid year of working.
Yeah.
All year.
Thanks. Oh my goodness. Well, we again are very grateful for it. As we wrap up here, can you share with the Laughers your holiday wishes for them this season?
Well, to start off with, I want to wish everybody have a great holiday season, have a healthy holiday season. I know the last couple of years it's been tough to do that. So I hope that everybody stays healthy and happy and it gets what they want, but more so than the things that they get to see the people that they maybe haven't been able to the last few years.
Sure. And mine is just kindness, practice kindness, wish each other peace and lots of love, because that's what Christmas is about. So just kindness, love, peace,
family,
and Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Ho, ho, ho.
I love you guys so much. And Laughers, if you would like to hear more Q&A with the Clauses, be sure to go back and listen to episode number 34 from last holiday season right here on the Virginia is for Laughers podcast. And thank you so much, Mr. and Mrs. Claus. This has been it's been delightful. You guys are both so amazing. It's been great to chat on all things the North Pole. I feel like I could ask you a million more questions, but I know you're busy. So I just want to say what a joy and a blessing to spend time again with both of you today. Thank you again so much.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yes, Merry Christmas, Laughers. You can see Mr. and Mrs. Claus live and in person as our special guests at the next X2 Comedy Series show at Court Square Theater on December 10th. Only in Harrisonburg. You can chat with them and have a fun photo festi-op right before and after the comedy show. Performing that night is yours truly, JMU's funny professor Chris Womack, Mike Moran's deadpan stupid smart comedy, Donna Lewis, who works at NASA by day and does stand-up by night, and your headliner, Shevitz Richard, out of D.C., who will be fresh off filming his comedy special at the Arlington Draft House. We might have another surprise or two for you, so don't miss out. Visit courtsquaretheater.org, that's theater with an ER.org, or x2comedy.com today to buy your tickets. And we'll be sure to put both of those websites in the show notes for you as well, along with the NORAD, what was that again, Clauses?
NORADSanta.org.
There you go. We'll put that website in the show notes for you also. And lastly, and most importantly, thanks for tuning in, Laughers. Out of all the podcasts out there, you picked us, and we think that's pretty darn special, just like you. Until next time, keep smiling. Bye.
Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Virginia is for Laughers podcast, brought to you by X2 Comedy. We'll be dropping a new podcast every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so check back for another uplifting episode. Come to an X2 Comedy show or let us bring a show to you. To find out more, head to x2comedy.com. Be sure to share us with a friend. Until next time, cheers.